My shift at the Midtown Hotel was supposed to end at 3, but I'd begged for extra hours. Cleaning the suites on the penthouse floor meant more vacuuming, more polishing marble, more folding of towels that cost more than my weekly groceries. But it was hours, and hours meant money. Money wasn't just for rent anymore. It was for the new inhaler for Sophia, my daughter. She was 8 years old, and her asthma hated the New York winter more than I did. The wheeze had started up again last night, a high, thin whistle in the dark that tightened my own chest. It was for the copay at the clinic. It was for the extra dollars I'd promised Mrs. Rodriguez down the hall, just to help keep her ancient, rattling space heater running. When I finally punched out, my feet were throbbing, but I had the cash. I stopped at the pharmacy first. The inhaler, the relief of sliding that little plastic box into my coat pocket, was worth the ache in my back. Then, I went to the bakery, Dolce Vero. It sat on the edge of Little Italy, all bright lights and painted gold scrolls on the window. It was a Bianchi place. Everyone knew it. You went there for the best cannoli, and you kept your mouth shut if you saw men in expensive suits talking quietly in the corner booths. I'd been saving for 6 weeks. I'd put down a $50 deposit on a unicorn cake for Sophia's birthday. She'd drawn a picture of it, a purple mane, a gold horn, and, for some reason, blue stars on its face. The baker had promised. I walked in. The smell of sugar and roasted espresso beans usually felt like a hug. Today, it just felt heavy. I counted the money left in my wallet. The pharmacy bill had been higher than I expected. The prescription copay had gone up. I was $28 short. My heart sank. $28. It might as well have been $1 million. I couldn't pay for the cake. I went to the counter. A young woman with sharp eyeliner and a pink apron was wiping down the glass. "Hi," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I have an order for tomorrow, for Sophia Ruiz." She kept wiping. "Pickup time, actually. I need to cancel it." She stopped. She looked up at me, and her eyes were flat. "Cancel." "We don't do cancellations 24 hours out. The layers are already baked." "I know. I'm so sorry. There was an emergency. My daughter's medication. I just don't have the rest of the payment." The woman sighed, loud and theatrical. "The deposit is non-refundable. It's the policy." "Please," I whispered, leaning in, conscious of the other customers. There was a man in a dark suit at the end of the counter, looking at some kind of ledger. I paid $50. "Can I just get some of it back?" "Even half policy," she said, tapping a small sign I hadn't noticed. My face was burning. I could feel the man in the suit watching me. I felt small, dirty, like my poverty was something I'd tracked in on my shoes. "Okay," I tried, desperate. "Okay, then can I use the deposit just for one cupcake? The cheapest one you have, just something with sprinkles." Sophia would understand. She always understood. The woman in pink actually rolled her eyes. She tapped the register. "The deposit is forfeit. It covers the waste. A single cupcake is $4.50, plus tax." I looked in my wallet. After the pharmacy, I had 3 single-dollar bills and a handful of quarters. Not even enough. I felt the tears sting. Hot and angry. I blinked them back. I would not cry in a Bianchi bakery. "Never mind," I said. I pulled my thin coat tighter. "Sorry to bother you." The bell on the door chimed as I pushed my way back into the wind. The ledgers were a mess. Franco Bianchi was running this community fund like a slush fund, which it was, but he was sloppy. He left tracks. My father, God rest him, would have been ashamed of such amateur work. I was just here to check the books, to see how much my rival was skimming off the neighborhood businesses he was supposed to be protecting. Then I heard her voice. It was quiet, sanded down by apologies. I looked up. A woman, young, maybe 25, clutching a worn coat. She looked tired, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with one night's sleep. She was trying to cancel a cake. I didn't mean to listen, but the acoustics in this place were all tile and glass. And the girl behind the counter, one of Franco's nieces, was enjoying herself. I heard medication. I heard deposit. Then I heard the woman, the customer, ask for a single cupcake, just the cheapest one. The clerk, that little viper in pink, shut her down. $4.50. I watched the woman's shoulders. She'd been holding herself together with string, and that last comment cut it. She didn't cry. She just deflated. She closed her wallet, a gesture of complete and total defeat. "Never mind," she said, and walked out. I waited until the bell jingled. I closed the ledger. "The deposit," I said. "The girl in pink jumped. Mr. Romano, I didn't see you. Can I get you an espresso?" "You're going to give that woman her deposit back, and you're going to give her the unicorn cake tomorrow. Put it on my account." The girl's face went pale. "But sir, Mr. Bianchi's policy is I don't give a damn about Franco's policy on fondant," I said, keeping my voice low. "This is a neighborhood shop. You don't treat people that way." "Yes, sir. I'll go get her." She started to move. "No, you stay here." I stood up, "and my name stays out of it. We'll call it a gift from the community fund." I let the irony hang in the air. I pushed the door open. The cold hit me. "Miss..." She was halfway to the corner. She turned. I saw her face clearly for the first time. She wasn't just tired. She was proud. And when she saw me and she knew who I was, everyone in these few blocks knows who I am. Her eyes went from weary to wary. She braced herself. I held out the envelope with the $50 from the register. "They made a mistake. Here's your deposit. The cake is also taken care of. It will be ready tomorrow." She just stared at the envelope. She didn't move. "Who took care of it?" she asked. Her voice wasn't shaking anymore. "It's a fund we have, for the community." A small, bitter sound escaped her. It wasn't a laugh. "Your community, Mr. Romano." "No, thank you. I don't take gifts that come with strings." I was taken aback. "It's just a cake. For your kid." She took a step back, pulling her coat tight. Her eyes were sharp. "My daughter needs to breathe. She doesn't need sweets if it means I owe someone like you." She turned and walked away. She didn't run. She walked, head high, disappearing into the 5 o'clock crowd heading for the subway. "I owe someone like you." I stood on the sidewalk. I wasn't Matteo Romano. 36 years old, I was 6. I was standing in a corner bodega with my mother, Rosa. It was my birthday. We had a small loaf of bread from the church donation basket. My mother wanted to buy a single candle to stick in it. Just one. She had 3 pennies. The man behind the counter said the candle was 5 cents. She begged. He laughed at her. I looked at the spot where the woman had stood. Franco Bianchi, his people. They weren't just stealing money, they were stealing dignity. They were running a system designed to make people beg for a 5-cent candle. I went back inside. The clerk looked terrified. She didn't take it. "Mr. Romano," I sat back down at the counter. "Forget the cake. Send it to the children's ward at St. Michael's, anonymously." I opened the ledger again. "Now, let's stop talking about pastries. Show me the invoices for your milk deliveries, the real ones." The subway ride back to the South Bronx felt like crossing an ocean. I hated the pity I saw in that man's eyes. Matteo Romano, they said he was the clean one, the one who ran the docks and the quiet businesses, not the street-level stuff like the Bianchis. It didn't matter. They were wolves in different suits, and I had just shown him my throat. I got off at my stop. The air was thick with the smell of diesel and fried food. Home. The lobby light of my building was flickering, casting long, nervous shadows. I checked my mailbox. Empty, as usual. But when I got to my apartment, 3B, there was a piece of paper taped to the door. Bright orange. It was from O'Rourke, the landlord. My stomach twisted. Notice of rent increase. I scanned the lines. He was raising the rent. 15% effective the first of the month. That was in 10 days. My hands started to shake, and there was more. Tucked under the first notice was another final warning lease violation. Reason: repeated disturbances, loud arguments, excessive noise. Arguments: I lived with an 8-year-old girl. The loudest thing in my apartment was her nebulizer. This was a lie, a complete fabrication. O'Rourke. He was always eating for free at the Bianchi restaurants. He was one of their men. This wasn't a coincidence. This was because I lived in a building they wanted to gut. This was pressure. I ripped the papers off the door, unlocked it, and stepped inside. Mommy Sophia was at the kitchen table, her homework spread out. Mrs. Rodriguez was sitting with her, knitting a scarf. Hi, mija. Hi, Mrs. Rodriguez. I forced a smile, shoving the orange papers deep into my coat pocket. Was she good, an angel? Mrs. Rodriguez said, her needles clicking. But that heater of yours, Elena, it's making that rattling sound again. And the cold, it's seeping through the window frame. I'll call O'Rourke again. I lied, kissing Sophia on the head. I'll fix it. Later that night, long after Sophia was asleep, my phone buzzed. I'd left it on the charger, turned face down. It was a text from another maid at the hotel. Elena, you need to see this. It was a link. Instagram, the Dolce Vero page. My blood went cold. I clicked it. It was me. It was a video from the bakery's security camera. It showed me at the counter. They had cut the audio, but they'd added their own captions. Ungrateful customer demands full refund on custom cake, then storms out when told no. They cut the part about the medication. They cut the part where I begged for a single cupcake. They just showed me talking to the clerk. Then turning and walking out, the comments were already flooding in. Some people have no shame. That's the Bianchi Bakery. They're the nicest people. Probably just trying to get a free cake. Disgusting. My phone buzzed again. A notification from the school parents' message board. One of the other moms had shared the link. Isn't this Sophia Ruiz's mother? How awful. Sophia, the kids at school would see this. They would hear their parents talking. My daughter's birthday. They had taken my money, denied me a cupcake, and now they were using my poverty to advertise their generosity. I held the power button on my phone until the screen went black. I sat in the dark kitchen, listening to the rattle of the heater. And for the first time all day, I finally cried. It was almost 2 a.m. My office was quiet, just the hum of the server. Tony DeLuca, my most trusted man, slid a folder across my desk. You were right to check the milk. Boss, tell me. It's bad. Bianchi isn't just padding the invoices for the community fund. He's not just overcharging for high-end organic milk. He's not buying high-end organic milk at all. I waited. He's buying bulk from a distributor in Jersey that's known to move product right at its expiration date. We're talking 1, maybe 2 days of shelf life. He's using it in the cannoli cream, the frostings, the cheesecakes. He's serving this stuff to kids. He's saving a few grand a month, but he's risking a massive public health incident. I looked at the manifests, shipping dates, expiration dates. It was all there. And then Tony said, there's this. He turned my monitor around, the Dolce Vero Instagram page, the video of Elena Ruiz. I watched the edited clip. The comments, that's low, Tony muttered. Using a customer like that, he's sending a message. I said I was in the shop. I offered to pay for her cake. She refused me. Tony raised an eyebrow. She thinks I'm like him. I said Bianchi must have seen it on his cameras. He thinks she's with me. He thinks this humiliates me, and he's squeezing her at home. I gestured to another report. O'Rourke posted eviction notices on her whole building this afternoon. Bogus noise complaints. So, what's the play, Tony asked. We lean on O'Rourke. We have a chat with Franco. I thought of her face. I don't owe someone like you. She hadn't asked for a savior. She had asked for dignity. No, I said, she doesn't want a knight. She wants a fair fight. If we use force, we just prove her right. We prove we're all the same. So we do nothing. We do it smart. I stood up and looked out the window at the lights of the city. Tony, I want you to find the number for the city's health inspector. Not the one on our payroll. The other one, the one who hates his job and actually follows the rules. And get me the file we have on that pro bono housing lawyer at the legal aid clinic, the one who owes us that favor. I looked back at the video, the grainy image of a woman being shamed for being poor. Franco Bianchi wants to use this woman to start a war over territory. Fine. But he used expired milk. And he put a target on a child. He just gave us the weapons. The shift at the hotel the next day was a walk through glass. Every time a guest looked at me, I felt my face burn. I knew they'd seen the video. I was the ungrateful maid. I was cleaning a suite on the 20th floor. The guest, a man in a slick suit who smelled like expensive cologne, was still in the room. He worked in pharmaceuticals. His papers were all over the desk. He watched me as I emptied the trash. You're Elena. Right, he asked, smiling. It wasn't a kind smile. Yes, sir. I kept my eyes down, moving to the bathroom. I saw that video of you. Tough break. He followed me, leaning against the door frame. People can be cruel. I just nodded, scrubbing the sink. Look, he said, pulling a wad of cash from his pocket. He peeled off a $100 bill, then another. He held them out. $200. You seem like you could use a friend. Why don't you finish up here, and then come back in? Say, an hour. We can talk. You can be a little flexible. My hands stopped moving. Flexible. The word hung in the air, dirty and heavy. I looked at the money, then at his face. I thought of Sophia. I thought of the $28 I didn't have. I stood up, pulling my gloves off. Your room is clean, sir. I will be sending housekeeping security up to verify that I have left and that you have not been disturbed. His smile vanished. It was just an offer. Have a good day, I said, walking out. 10 minutes later, I was in my manager's office. Elena, we have a problem, she said, not looking at me. She was looking at the Dolce Vero video on her computer. Mr. Harris in 2014 says you were rude to him. He offered me money for things not in my job description when he's a Platinum Rewards member. Elena, he said you were inflexible. That's the word he used. Inflexible. She sighed. With this video going around, and now this complaint, I can't have you on the VIP floors. I'm cutting your hours. We can't afford this kind of drama. My hours, my breathing got shallow. Cutting them by how much? By half. Effective immediately. Half my paycheck. I walked out of her office feeling colder than the street outside. My name is Matteo. I don't tolerate messes. And Franco Bianchi, with his sloppy books and expired milk, was a mess. But this was something else. My people had eyes on Elena Ruiz, not to control her, but to see what Franco would do next. The report came in about her hours being cut, the pharma guest, the manager. Franco didn't even have to lift a finger. I said to Tony, the system did it for him. She gets shamed online. She loses half her income, all because she was poor in public. It gets worse. Boss, Tony said. He'd just come back from her building in the Bronx. I didn't go near her, but I checked the mailboxes in the lobby. O'Rourke wasn't just saber-rattling with those notices. What did you do? What you said. The smart move. No cash. He'd left a plain white envelope in her mailbox. Inside, no money, just 2 cards. One was for a pro bono attorney, the best housing rights lawyer in the city, a woman who owed me a favor from when I'd kept her younger brother out of a shipping container. The other was a card for a private community health clinic, a place I fund anonymously. It had a 24-hour pediatric nurses line. She won't take my money. I said, I learned that, but maybe she'll take a tool, a weapon she can use herself. And what about Bianchi? Tony asked. He's laughing. My source inside his crew says Franco thinks you've gone soft. He thinks this woman is your new charity case. He's telling everyone you tried to play the big shot and she spat in your face. Let him laugh. I said, let him think I'm soft. Soft men make mistakes. Proud men make bigger ones. He sees her as a weakness. Boss, a way to get under your skin. She is not a weakness, I said, my voice quiet. She's a fuse. And Franco's the one holding the match. When I got home, I was numb. Half my hours. O'Rourke's orange papers were still on my kitchen counter, mocking me. I checked the mail. Just junk. And a plain white envelope. My name. No return address. I opened it. My heart stopped. A business card, a lawyer, pro bono, downtown address. The kind of building I couldn't even walk into. And another card. A community clinic. 24-hour pediatric care. There was no note. No name. But I knew. Matteo Romano. He hadn't given me money. He'd given me phone numbers. He thought he could buy my problem. He thought this made him different from the man in the hotel room. I felt a hot, choking anger. He was pulling me into his world. Whether I wanted to be or not, he was putting his mark on me. I grabbed the cards. I was going to rip them into 1,000 pieces. But Sophia, her wheeze, O'Rourke, I couldn't. I shoved them deep into my pocket, under my pharmacy receipts. I would not call. I would not be the woman who took his help. I would find a second job. I would sell my TV. I would fix this myself. 2 days later, the cold settled in. It wasn't just the wind. I woke up and could see my breath. The radiator in my room was stone cold. I went to the living room. Cold. I put my hand on the radiator in Sophia's room. Ice. O'Rourke had done it. He'd cut the heat. I ran downstairs and knocked on Mrs. Rodriguez's door. She opened it, wrapped in 3 sweaters. Elena, mija. She coughed. It's freezing, my bones. He shut it off. I said, the whole building. We weren't the only ones. The tenants on the 2nd floor were banging on the pipes. I called the city's 311 line. I filed a complaint. They gave me a case number. The day dragged on. The apartment got colder. Mrs. Rodriguez's cough got worse, a dry, racking sound by evening. Her lips had a bluish tint. Mrs. Rodriguez. I'm calling an ambulance. No, Mia, it's too expensive. I'm calling. The paramedics were kind. They wrapped her in thermal blankets. Hypothermia. One of them said to me, her lungs are struggling. You did the right thing. As they carried her out, I stood in the doorway and filmed it. I filmed the ice on the inside of the window pane. I filmed the dead radiator. I filmed the paramedics loading her into the ambulance. I uploaded all of it to the Housing Authority complaint portal. The status changed to documentation received, and then nothing. The portal was silent. The heat stayed off. I got the alert on my phone. 2 a.m. St. Michael's ER. Subject Rodriguez, Teresa, hypothermia. Tony had set up a perimeter watch, just to observe. My gut twisted. O'Rourke. This was Franco's hand, using a landlord as his fist. This was an escalation. He was testing me. He was telling me, see, I can touch the people around her, and you can't stop me. I wanted to send Tony. I wanted to go down to O'Rourke's warm apartment in the suburbs and drag him out into the cold. I wanted to show him what a real loss of heat felt like. But I couldn't. If I put my hand down, I'd be claiming her. I'd be painting a target on her back so big, even Bianchi couldn't miss. I'd be making her my property. And she had looked at me outside that bakery and told me, clear as day, that she would rather have nothing than be in debt. So I sat in my office, in the dark, my hands clenched so hard my nails cut into my palms. I was fighting a war with my hands tied. Then the second report came in, just before dawn, from the man watching the building. Lights on in 3B all night, sounds of pediatric nebulizer, child in distress, mother walking the floors, still no heat. He'd hurt her child. I stood up. Get me the O'Rourke file, I said to the empty room. All of it. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I held Sophia on my lap, wrapped in every blanket we owned. Her small body was working so hard for every breath. The little nebulizer machine was humming, pushing the mist into her lungs, but the cold was fighting it. It's okay, mija, I whispered, rocking her. Breathe with mommy. In and out, in and out. Her eyes were wide in the dark, scared. This wasn't about a cake anymore. This wasn't about my pride. This was about my daughter's life. I looked at the phone. I thought about the card in my pocket, the clinic, the lawyer. No, not yet. The next day, my phone rang, a private number. Is this Elena Ruiz? A woman's voice, artificially bright. Yes, my name is Jessica. I'm with the 5 Boroughs Hospitality Group. We got your name from a mutual friend. We have an opening for a night shift custodial position. Private offices in Little Italy. It pays $35 an hour. $35 an hour. It was more than double my hotel pay. It was survival. What? What offices? Oh, just some executive suites. Very quiet. Light dusting, mostly. You'd be working alone. Very flexible. There it was again. Flexible. And then I recognized the voice. The lilt. The way she said executive. It was the girl from the bakery. The one with the pink apron. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a job. This was a trap. They wanted me inside. They wanted me to... What plant? A listening device. Open a door. They thought I was with Romano. They thought they could buy me, or scare me, into being their spy. No. Thank you, I said, and my voice was rock solid. I'm not interested. I hung up before she could say another word. I found the flyer they'd slipped under my door for the job. I tore it into confetti and threw it in the trash. That evening, Sophia was quiet. The school had called. The other kids had been talking. They'd seen the video of her mean mommy. She didn't want to read. She just went to her room. When I went to check on her, she was asleep on my pillow. She'd left a drawing. It wasn't a unicorn. It was a picture of the two of us, just two stick figures holding hands. We were smiling underneath in her new, careful handwriting. She had written, "Mommy, I don't need cake. I just want to be with you." I sat on the floor, holding that piece of paper, and the fight went out of me. My pride wasn't keeping us warm. My pride wasn't making her breathe easier. I had to protect her. I couldn't do it alone. I knew she came to St. Michael's on Fridays. She helped the old woman, Rodriguez. She didn't take food for herself, just carried the bags for her neighbor. I waited by the iron gate of the churchyard, where they were handing out pantry bags. The wind was bitter. I saw her. She looked thinner than she had in the bakery, exhausted, but not broken. She was helping Mrs. Rodriguez, who was bundled up but still looked pale. Elena put the bags into the old woman's shopping cart. "Mrs. Ruiz." I called out, "Elena, wait." She stopped. She turned. She didn't look surprised. She just looked tired. "What do you want, Mr. Romano?" I walked over. I kept my hands out of my pockets. "I know about the heat. I know Mrs. Rodriguez was in the ER. And I know you didn't use the cards I left." Her eyes flashed. "And you know about the job offer from the bakery." I nodded. She was fast. "They think you're with me. Franco is using you to get to me. You're in danger because of what happened." She gave that same bitter laugh. "I'm in danger because I'm poor. Mr. Romano, they just found a new way to push." I looked at her. I'd seen people break over less. She was bending, but she wasn't breaking. "You're right," I said. I pulled a piece of paper from my coat and a pen, not an envelope. "This is the lawyer's name. This is the doctor at the clinic. They are not my people. They're independent. They will file an emergency injunction against O'Rourke tonight and get the heat back on. They will get Sophia a full pediatric workup. It is all transparent. It is all legal." She stared at the paper. Why I hesitated. Because my mother once had to choose between a birthday candle and the bus fare home. She chose the bus fare. I didn't get a candle. Her gaze lifted from the paper to my face. She held it for a long, silent moment. Then she took the paper. "I'll take it," she said, her voice low. "But we have conditions. I had never, in my entire life, had someone in her position set conditions for me. Name them." I said, "1. This isn't a trade. I don't see anything for you. I don't hear anything for you. I am not your information." "Agreed," I said, without hesitation. 2. She took a breath. "This is not a debt. This isn't an in for you. This is not a favor I have to repay when you decide to call in your chips. It's not an in." I said, "It's an out." She nodded slowly. "Write it down." I didn't blink. I pressed the paper against the brick wall of the church. I wrote, "This is assistance, not leverage. No trade, no debt." I signed it. R. I handed it to her. She folded it carefully and put it in her pocket, the same pocket where she'd shoved the cards. "Okay," she said. "Now what now?" I said, "You make the call, and I go after the man who cut the heat." "You mean Bianchi?" She said, "I mean O'Rourke, the legal way, the way you just showed me." I turned and walked away before she could say no again. I had agreed to her terms. We both had. In writing, the game had just changed. I made the calls, not the kind of calls Franco Bianchi would make, not calls to men with bats. I called the lawyer I'd given Elena's name to. "O'Rourke," I said. "He's running an illegal eviction scheme using faked code violations. I have a file. I want him in front of a judge by noon." Then I called my contact at the Times. "I have a tip on a public health story. A high-end bakery in Little Italy. Dolce Vero." "Bianchi's place?" the reporter asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "The one." I said, "I have manifests. Expired milk. Potentially thousands of people at risk. But the real story is that the Department of Health seems to have lost their last 3 inspection reports. You should ask them why." Then I made a third call. "To an auditor I keep on retainer. I want a full, public-facing audit of the Bianchi Community Fund, every dollar. I want to know where the donations for the church roof really went. I hung up. I didn't send a single man into the street. I didn't break a single window. I just aimed the spotlight. Franco wanted to fight in the dark. I was going to turn on the floodlights. I made my own calls. The lawyer, Miss Diaz, was a whirlwind. She listened to me for 5 minutes, looked at the video I'd taken of Mrs. Rodriguez, and said, "This is criminal. We're filing for an emergency injunction." The doctor at the clinic saw Sophia immediately. He adjusted her medication. He gave me a new prescription, free of charge, and a heavy-duty air filter for the apartment. "This will help," he said, his eyes kind, for the first time in a week. I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, a city inspector and 2 police officers were at O'Rourke's door. The heat came on 3 hours later. It clanged and hissed like a dying animal. But it was warm. Mrs. Rodriguez came home that afternoon. She was weak, but she was alive. I felt a small, fragile victory. It lasted until I went to work. The manager was waiting for me by the time clock. "Elena, my office. Now." She had 2 other people with her, a stern-faced woman from Human Resources and a hotel security guard. "Elena, a guest has reported a theft." The manager said, "What? Mr. Harris, the gentleman from room 20014. He said you were the only one in his room yesterday. Today, he's reporting that several monogrammed towels and a high-end bathrobe are missing." I stared at her. "I didn't take any towels. It's his word against yours." The manager said, "And frankly, given your recent public issues, it doesn't look good." "Check the cameras," I said, my voice shaking. "Check the cameras at the employee exit. I didn't take anything." The security guard cleared his throat. "Unfortunately, Miss Ruiz, the CCTV footage from that hallway appears to be corrupted, a system glitch. There's nothing from your entire shift." A glitch. Just like my noise violations. "This is a joke." I said. "Theft is not a joke," the HR woman said. She pushed a piece of paper across the desk. "This is a voluntary resignation form. If you sign it, we agree not to press charges. It's the best we can offer." They were framing me. Bianchi. This was his answer to the heat coming back on. He couldn't touch me at home, so he was burning me at work. "I'm not signing that," I said. "If you don't sign, we will call the police and have you arrested for theft. Right now." My hands were trembling. I'd lose my job. I'd have a criminal record. I'd lose Sophia. I reached for the pen. Wait. A new voice. A young man, maybe 20, stood in the doorway. He was wearing the gray polo shirt of the hotel's IT department. "Mark, sorry to interrupt, ma'am," he said to the manager, "but the camera footage isn't corrupted." The manager's face went white. "Excuse me, it was just misfiled," Mark said, avoiding my eyes but giving me the slightest nod. "I was running diagnostics. The server archived it funny. Here's the footage from the employee exit, timestamped to Miss Ruiz's clock out." He plugged a flash drive into the manager's computer, and there I was, walking out. My bag was open for the security check. I opened my coat. I had nothing. The HR woman's mouth opened, and Mark said, typing again, "I also found the footage from the 20th floor hallway. The glitch just affected the feed to the security office. The raw data was still recording." He pressed play. The video showed me leaving room 20014. 3 minutes later, the guest, Mr. Harris, walked out. He was carrying his own garment bag, and a hotel bathrobe was visibly draped over his arm. "It seems," Mark said, "that Mr. Harris forgot he packed it." There was a dead silence. "Elena," the manager started. I'm going back to my shift." I said. I picked up my cleaning cart. As I walked out, I paused by Mark. "Why?" I whispered. He looked up. "You covered for me last month," he said, just as quietly. "When my son had his recital, you did my last 2 rooms so I could leave. You didn't even tell the manager." He shrugged. "I hate bullies. Just be careful. Elena, that footage wasn't misfiled. Someone with admin access tried to delete it." The news of the failed frame-up hit Franco Bianchi like a physical slap. "She's clean," he'd roared at O'Rourke. "According to my source. A Maid, nobody is that clean. The IT kid found the tape," O'Rourke had stammered. "Find another way." but the other ways were closing. The Times article about the expired milk scandal at Dolce Vero had dropped that morning. The Department of Health had shut them down. My auditor had found the community fund was just a fancy name for Franco's vacation house. The money had stopped. Bianchi was a cornered animal, and cornered animals don't get subtle. He's furious, Tony reported to me. He's not thinking about business anymore. He's thinking about respect. He thinks you and this woman are laughing at him. Where is she? At home? With the kid? Send the team, I said. The A-team, the heavy hitters. No, I said. I looked at the little slip of paper on my desk, the contract she'd made me sign. No debt, no trade, not hitters, protectors. Call the Patriot Civilian Patrol, the licensed guys, the ones registered with the NYPD. I want a 2-man team on her block, visible, legal, and get a licensed electrician and a crew from Con Ed over there. I'm tired of that building's faulty wiring. I was trying to explain to Sophia why we couldn't go to the park when we heard it. A crash of glass from the hallway, then pounding, not on the door, on the wall. Sophia screamed. I ran to the door, looked through the peephole. 2 men. They weren't trying to get in. They were sending a message. One of them took a can of spray paint in huge, dripping red letters. He painted liar across my door. The other one took a hammer and smashed the lock. Not to open it, but to break it. You and your rat friend, one of them yelled. Stay away from Bianchi's business. Then they were gone, their boots echoing down the stairs. Sophia was hysterical. She was sobbing, pointing at the door. They're coming in. Mommy, they're coming in. No, Mija, no, I'm here. I dragged the sofa in front of the broken lock, my whole body shaking. This was it. This was the line. He had brought it to my home. He had terrified my child. I picked up my phone. I was going to call the police. But before I could, my phone buzzed. A text from Matteo Romano. Help is outside. They are not my men. They are a registered security patrol. Do not be afraid. Let them in. I looked through the peephole again. The 2 thugs were gone. In their place were 2 men in simple, dark blue uniforms. They had Patriot Security on their jackets. They were talking calmly to Mrs. Rodriguez, who was peering out of her apartment. Another group of men was coming up the stairs. They were carrying toolboxes. Con Edison, ma'am, one of them said. We're here about the illegal heat shutoff, and we're bringing a backup generator for the building, just in case. I leaned my head against the door. I saw the difference. Bianchi sent 2 thugs with a hammer to break a lock. Matteo sent 2 licensed security guards and a team of electricians to fix the building. One used fear to tear things down. The other used resources to build them back up. I opened the door. He didn't come to the apartment. He respected the line. Instead, he met us at the community kitchen, the one at the church. He was running a small, free baking class for the neighborhood kids. I hadn't known. Sophia, who was still jumpy and waking up from nightmares, had barely spoken. But when she smelled the sugar, her eyes lit up. Hey, Sophia, Matteo said. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a sweater. He looked normal. You ever made simple oatmeal cookies? She shook her head, hiding behind my legs. Well, I need a helper. The best part is adding the chocolate chips. She looked at me. I nodded. Go on, Mija. I watched from a bench. I watched him. This man who controlled half the city's gray economy. Patiently show my 8-year-old daughter how to measure flour. He was gentle. He made her laugh when he got flour on his nose. For an hour. She wasn't the girl who was scared of monsters behind the door. She was just a kid. He brought me a coffee and a cookie. Thank you, I said. For the men at the building. It's a stopgap, he said, his voice low. He won't stop. He's lost face. I know. We sat in silence, watching the kids. You're a good mother, Elena. My head snapped up. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I'm just trying to survive. I said, you're doing more than that. I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. It was dangerous. It was a feeling of being seen. I had to put the wall back up for my own safety. I'm grateful. Matteo, I said, using his first name, but I need you to remember our agreement. He met my gaze. I accept the support. I said, my voice quiet but firm. I don't accept chains. This doesn't mean I work for you. It doesn't mean I'm yours." He held my gaze for a long time. Then he nodded. "No chains, Elena. I understand." The trap came 2 days later. It came as a text message on Sophia's new tablet, a cheap one I'd gotten her for schoolwork. "Hi, Sophia. This is Hebe from Dolce Vero. We saw the video and felt so bad. We want to give you a free surprise birthday party. Come to the old packing house at the harbor. Dock B at 6 p.m. tonight. We will have your special unicorn cake." My blood turned to ice. Hebe. I remembered her. A young apprentice. Always in the back, terrified of the pink apron girl. But that wasn't what caught my eye. Unicorn, when I had first placed the order. 6 weeks ago, I'd watched the pink apron girl write it down on the order form. She had misspelled it. UNIKORN. I had corrected her. But she'd waved me off. Only she and I would know that misspelling. This wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. They weren't just trying to trap me. They were using my daughter's birthday as bait. I called Matteo. He picked up on the first ring. "He's got her," I said, my voice trembling with a rage so cold it scared me. "No, he sent a fake message to Sophia, where..." His voice was suddenly steel. No more Baker. The boss was back. "The harbor, Dock B, 6 p.m. He's using the cake. He's going to stage another video. Matteo. He's going to use my daughter as a prop. Stay there," he commanded. "Lock your door. Tony and my men will meet me. We will handle this. We will get the child." "No." There was a silence on the line. "What did you say?" "I said no," I repeated. "You are not handling this. You are not getting the child. That is my child. I am coming with you." "Elena, that's insane. It's a cold storage warehouse. It's Bianchi's turf. It's not safe." "And you think I'm safe here?" "He knows where I live. He painted my door. He's not going to hurt her. Not physically. He needs her for his video. He's going to try and make me do something. And he'll use her to do it." I took a deep breath. She's 8 years old and she's terrified. If she's in that dark place, she's not going to listen to you. She's not going to listen to Tony. I walked to the door, grabbing my coat. "She will listen to her mother." "You want to protect us. Then you stop treating me like something to be protected. You start trusting me as a partner. I am going..." There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing. "5 minutes, he said. "A black car will be at your corner. Be in it." He hung up. I turned to Mrs. Rodriguez, who was holding a sleeping Sophia. "You're not taking her?" she whispered, horrified. "No. I'm going so I can protect her. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or the Patriot guards." I kissed my daughter's forehead. "Mommy will be right back," I whispered. I walked out of the apartment, past the new steel-reinforced door Matteo's crew had installed, and into the cold night. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was going to war. The ride to the harbor was silent, but it was a screaming silence. My theory, the one I'd thrown at Matteo on the phone, was wrong. The text message hadn't been the trap. It had been the distraction. While I was deciphering the unicorn misspelling, feeling smart, another one of Bianchi's men had knocked on my door. He'd told Mrs. Rodriguez he was from the party planners and was picking up Sophia for the surprise. She'd seen the text on the tablet. She'd heard me talking about a party. It all lined up. She had let him in. Sophia was gone. Matteo's car ate the road, the tires hissing on the wet pavement. I was vibrating. My teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. I wasn't his partner. I was a fool. I had led the wolf right to her. "He won't hurt her," Matteo said, his voice level. He was trying to manage me. "He needs her clean. She's his prop. Elena. He harms one hair on her head. He loses all his leverage. He just needs you." "Stop talking," I whispered. I was looking out the window at the skeletons of the cranes passing by. We stopped. Dock B, a cold storage warehouse, dark and silent. Tony DeLuca was waiting by a service door, his face grim. He just nodded at Matteo, his eyes flicking to me, full of pity. I hated it. "One camera crew, boss," Tony murmured. 3 men inside, plus Franco, and the girl. He pried the service door open. The air that hit us was freezing, carrying the smell of ice and old fish. Matteo put a hand on my arm. I flinched. Elena, we go in. We listen. We let him talk. Tony has a team on the roof. We wait for the signal. Do not react. Let me handle the talk. I just nodded. My body was numb. I only cared about one thing. We stepped inside. It was huge, a cavern of shadows and metal shelves. In the center, under a single harsh spotlight, was a scene. It was a nightmare. A small card table, covered in a cheap plastic tablecloth with balloons on it. On the table was the cake, the unicorn, just as misspelled. It was grotesque, the frosting a sickly purple, the horn drooping, and sitting at the table, in a small chair, was Sophia. She was wearing her coat. She looked small, pale, and completely terrified. Her eyes were wide, darting into the darkness around her. A man with a large video camera on his shoulder was filming her. "Sophia!" I screamed. I started to run. "Mommy!" she cried, jumping up. A voice from the shadows. Franco Bianchi stepped into the light. He was smiling, holding a script. "Not yet. Mommy, we haven't sung Happy Birthday. Sit down, little girl. Your mother is just arriving." Sophia froze, tears welling. She sat back down. I stopped, my breath catching in my chest. "You!" I choked, my voice full of venom. "You took her." "I invited her," Bianchi said, spreading his hands. "She's my guest of honor. We just wanted to right a wrong. That mean Mr. Romano, he stopped you from getting your cake. But I am a man of the community, and I wanted Sophia to have her party." He walked over to me. He smelled like sour cologne. "And you, Elena, you get to help." He pushed the script into my hand. I looked down. It was a statement. Elena Ruiz, was forced by Matteo Romano to clean his books. He used my daughter's illness to silence me. He is the one running the expired milk scandal. He's the one laundering money through the docks. "You're insane," I whispered. "I'm a storyteller," Bianchi said, his voice dropping. He gestured to the camera. "And this is your scene. You read the script. You read it with feeling. You cry. You tell the world what a monster he is." He leaned in. "You do that, and the little girl gets to cut the cake, and then she gets to go home. You don't, well, this is a very big, cold warehouse. It would be easy for a little girl to get lost." My legs felt weak. This was the trap, not just for Matteo, but for me. He was going to destroy me, using my own words. I looked at Sophia, her little hands twisting in her lap. I looked at Matteo. His face was calm, too calm. He stepped out of the shadow, next to me. He put his hands up, palms out, showing he was unarmed. "That's a good story, Franco," Matteo said, his voice echoing in the huge space. "But it's not the right one." This was the pivot, the moment the game turns. She was here. Elena, I had told her to wait, but I knew she wouldn't. Now Bianchi had them both, and he had a camera. In my world, cameras are worse than bullets. Bullets end a life. A camera ends a reputation, a legacy. I saw the script in her hand. I saw her face. She was shattering. Time to change the narrative. "I'm here, Franco," I said, walking into the light. Tony tensed in the shadows behind me, but I waved him down. "This isn't about her. This is about you and me." Bianchi's smile was pure poison. "Matteo, welcome. You're just in time to see justice done. This poor woman, you've treated her terribly." "Stop," I said. The theater is over. You're bleeding money. The health department shut you down. The DA is auditing your community fund. Your suppliers are cut off. You're done." "I'm not done," he roared. "I'm just getting started. After she reads this, your clean reputation will be gone. Your name will be mud. I'll be the hero who exposed you." "Or," I said, "we could try a different ending." I reached inside my own coat. Slowly, Bianchi's men tensed. The cameraman faltered. I didn't pull out a weapon. I pulled out a piece of paper, a single folded sheet. "You've got your script." "Franco, I've got mine." I walked to the table, between him and Elena. I didn't look at Sophia. I had to focus on the animal. I unfolded the paper. "This is a community accord," I said, my voice clear and loud for the camera. "It's an offer. You're beat, but I'm giving you a way out. You agree to stop all operations that touch residential housing. You stop strong-arming tenants. You stop using food products as a weapon. You stick to your bookmaking and your backroom games. You leave the families, the bakeries, and the neighborhoods to me. I slid the paper onto the table. You sign this. You let Elena and her daughter walk out that door, and I let you keep the scraps of your territory. My clean business stays clean, and yours stays in the dark, where it belongs. Franco Bianchi stared at the paper. He looked at me. He looked at Elena, and then he laughed. It was a high, wheezing sound, an accord, a treaty. You think you're a king. You're just a rat, like your father. He snapped his fingers. Kill the lights. The spotlight clicked off. The warehouse was plunged into absolute, terrifying blackness. I heard Sophia gasp, then a sound I dreaded. The clang and rattle of the main roll-up door, a heavy chain. He was locking us in. Now, Bianchi's voice echoed from the dark. We do it my way. You want to be a hero in the dark. Matteo, let's see how you do. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. The blackness was total. Mommy, Sophia's voice was a terrified squeak. I'm right here, mija. I called out. My own voice was shaking. I'm right here. It's okay. It's just a game. He's just playing a game. It's dark. I know. I was moving, shuffling my feet, my hands out. Sophia, listen to my voice. We're going to play our breathing game. The one for your asthma. Remember, we count, you and me. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, her tiny voice echoed back. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3. This is your grand plan. Franco, Matteo's voice cut through the dark. He was stalling. His voice was calm, but hard. Hiding, this is what you're reduced to. You can't even face me in the light. Shut up, Romano, Bianchi shouted. He was moving. I could hear his shoes scraping on the concrete. You think you're smart, you and your woman. You think you can. Where is she? A heavy click echoed from the catwalks above us. A metal latch. Tony. Whump. A series of dim, red emergency lights flickered on, bathing the whole scene in a hellish glow. It was chaos. I saw him. Bianchi. He was lunging for me. Drop it? A new voice. A woman's? Hebe, the young bakery apprentice. She was standing by a stack of pallets, where she must have been hiding. She was holding a tray, a huge tray of cupcakes. I said, drop it, she screamed, her voice cracking. She wasn't part of the plan. She was terrified. She had just been here, forced to be part of the setup. She took a step, tripped, and the entire tray went flying. Crash. 100 cupcakes hit the concrete. It was absurd. It was the distraction. Bianchi roared in fury. He turned from me to her. You stupid! He didn't have a script anymore. His plan was ruined. The lights were on. The distraction had broken his focus. He pulled a gun from his waistband. He wasn't a storyteller. He was just a thug. He raised it. I don't know if he was aiming at Hebe or me or Matteo. I didn't wait to find out. I lunged for the table. The table with the unicorn cake. The knife was still there. A long, flat-bladed frosting knife. I grabbed it. Bianchi was turning. Matteo was moving, too, but I was closer. I didn't try to stab him. I didn't try to be a hero. I just swung the handle, with all my weight, all my fear, all my rage, directly at his wrist. Crack. The sound of the metal handle hitting his bone was sickening. Bang. The gun went off. The sound was a physical blow. It was deafening. I screamed. Plaster exploded from a concrete pillar, 20 feet away. No one was hit. Bianchi howled, clutching his wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Sophia! In the same second, Tony DeLuca dropped from a rafter. He landed like a cat, scooped up Sophia, and was gone, running back toward the service entrance. Mammy, it's okay, baby, go with Tony, go, I turned back. Matteo was on Bianchi. He didn't punch him. He didn't kick him. It was fast, brutal, and silent. He twisted Bianchi's good arm behind his back in a lock that made his knees buckle. He shoved him forward, hard, against the wall. And then, I saw it. The cameraman, who had recovered, was raising his camera. Matteo saw him too. In one smooth, deliberate motion. Matteo spun, keeping the hold on Bianchi, but turning his own back to the camera. He shielded his face. his identity. From the lens, he held Bianchi there, a prisoner, denying Franco the one thing he wanted footage of, the monster. And then, the world exploded in light and sound. The main roll-up door crashed open, flooding the warehouse with blinding white headlights and the scream of sirens. NYPD hands and the Airport Authority police. But the first men through the door weren't cops. They were men in suits, holding clipboards. Department of Health, this warehouse is hereby sealed. We have a warrant. I sagged against the table. I saw Tony at the door, holding a sobbing Sophia. She was safe. I looked back. Bianchi was on his knees, his face a mask of disbelief. The police were cuffing him. Matteo let them... He stood up, breathing hard. He ignored the cops, ignored the health inspectors. He just looked at me, across the room, through the chaos. His eyes were asking one question. "Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. It was over. No one was dead. The next morning was a different kind of cold. The air was sharp, but the fear was gone, replaced by a strange, buzzing exhaustion. We were standing in front of Dolce Vero. The gold leaf lettering was still there, but the doors were chained. A huge, bright orange condemned sticker from the Department of Health was slapped across the glass. It was a media circus. Reporters were shouting, cameras flashing. They swarmed me. Miss Diaz, the lawyer, stood beside me, a solid wall. "Miss Ruiz, is it true he held your daughter? Elena, how does it feel to take down the Bianchi family? Tell us what they did to you. Tell us about the threats." They were pushing microphones in my face. They wanted the story, the poor, terrified single mother, the victim. They wanted my tears. They wanted me to perform my poverty and my fear for them. I looked at the cameras. I thought of the video they'd posted of me, the ungrateful mother. I felt the small, folded-up drawing Sophia had made, the one of us holding hands in my coat pocket. I was not going to be their victim. Not again. I stepped forward to the microphone. The shouting died down. My hands were shaking. I'm not a public speaker. I clean rooms. I'm not here to talk about what happened in that warehouse, and I said, my voice was small, but it was clear. The police have that report. I am not here to talk about Franco Bianchi. The reporters looked confused. This wasn't the script they wanted. I am here to say only one thing. I took a breath. I looked right into the main camera. Children have the right to a safe birthday. That was it. I said my piece. I stepped back, letting Miss Diaz take over. She started talking about injunctions and public health violations, but I had already won. I had told my story, not theirs. I watched her from the edge of the crowd. Children have the right to a safe birthday. She'd done it again. She had taken the power back. She hadn't named me. She hadn't named Bianchi. She had made it about the core of the thing. She was a better politician than any man I knew. A reporter, the one I had tipped off, saw me. "Mr. Romano, you were at the warehouse. What is your involvement? Are you just taking over Bianchi's territory?" All the cameras swung to me. This was it, the moment I had been dreading, the moment I had to choose. I walked to the microphones. I stood where she had stood. "My name is Matteo Romano," I said. "My organization has been part of Little Italy for a very long time. I didn't deny it. I didn't lie. That ends today. Or rather, it changes." I pulled a single sheet of paper from my coat, not a secret accord, a public one. Effective this morning, my businesses and all associated enterprises will adopt a new public charter. I am announcing it here. The crowd was silent. "First," I said, "we will not be involved in residential housing. We will not profit from the places people live. We will not tolerate landlords who use heat or security as a weapon against low-income families." I saw the reporter for the Times scribbling. "Second, the practice of protection money for small businesses ends. We are dissolving the old funds. Instead, we are creating a new, audited, transparent community investment trust. Third, that trust's first and only priority for the next year will be to fund and build community kitchens, neighborhood watch patrols, and safe food programs for every borough." A hand shot up. "Why should we believe you, Romano? This is just talk. You're just a different kind of boss." I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't get the chance, because he remembers what it is to be hungry. The voice was steel. It was a voice I hadn't heard in public in 20 years. The crowd parted. My mother, Rosa Romano, walked through. She was 70 years old, dressed in her simple black coat. She looked like any other grandmother from the neighborhood. She didn't come to me. She walked right past me and stood next to Elena Ruiz. She put a hand on Elena's arm. I was frozen. I had not known she was coming. "I am Rosa Romano," she said to the cameras. "Mateo's mother." The reporters were frantic, taking pictures of this, the two women side by side. "You talk about cakes," my mother said, her voice thick with the old accent. "You talk about money." I remember it was Mateo's 6th birthday. I was a widow. I had no money. I did not have 5 cents for one candle, just one. She looked at Elena, a look of profound understanding. The man in the shop, he laughed at me. He said, "No pay, no candle." My son Mateo, he never forgot that. He never forgot what it feels like to be shamed when you have nothing. She turned to the cameras, her eyes flashing. "Mateo has power, yes. He has done things I do not like, but he learned that day that power is for one thing to buy the candle for the person who cannot. It is not to burn the house down. It is to make sure every child gets a candle." She had humanized me. She had legitimized Elena. She had taken my calculated business move and turned it into an act of redemption. She had saved me. I watched it all on the small television in my kitchen. The heat was clanging softly in the radiator. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. Sophia was at the table, drawing not a unicorn, a house. The news segment ended, and a new one began. In related news, the anchor said, South Bronx landlord James O'Rourke was arrested this morning in a pre-dawn raid. The state attorney general's office, acting on a tip from the housing authority, is investigating him for systemic rent gouging and what they are calling fraudulent deprivation of essential services across a dozen properties. They showed O'Rourke, in handcuffs, being put into a police car, the same smug face, now pale and terrified. I sat down, a knot I had carried in my chest for a year, a knot so tight I thought it was part of me, just unwound. It was real. He was gone. The threat was gone. My phone rang. It was Miss Diaz. "We did it, Elena," she said, her voice tired but happy. "The AG's office has your testimony, and the videos. O'Rourke is done. And the Bianchi family, they're broken. The violent faction that Franco ran, they're scattered, they're fleeing the state, the business side. The older ones, they've already sent lawyers. They want a deal. They're going legitimate." She paused. "It's over. You're safe." Safe. I whispered the word. I didn't even know what it meant. "Elena." "I'm here," I said, wiping a tear from my cheek. "Thank you." That night, my office was quiet. Too quiet. The choice was made. The bridges were burned. My mother's speech had sealed it. The old guard, the ones who had respected my father, would see this as weakness, an unforgivable display of sentiment. They would see my public charter as handing over the keys. The new world, the world of legitimate business and city contracts, would see me as a criminal trying to buy his way in. I was on an island. I had given up the weapons of the gray world: fear, ambiguity, leverage. I had done it to protect Elena, to prove I was different from Bianchi, but in doing so, I had made myself, and by extension her, more vulnerable than ever. The old threats were gone, but new ones that didn't respect my name or my father's, would be coming. I had put myself in a cage. Now I had to figure out if I could still fight from inside it. I found him a few days later, not in his office or in a dark car. He was at the community kitchen, sweeping the floor. The reporters were gone. The cops were gone. It was just us. He looked tired. He looked smaller. "Your mother," I said, "has very good timing." He stopped sweeping. A small smile touched his lips. "She embarrassed me." "She saved you," I said softly. I walked over, wiping down a steel counter. "We just worked, side by side, for a few minutes." "It's done," I said. "O'Rourke is gone. The building is forming a tenants association. Miss Diaz is helping us buy it." "I know," he said. He looked at me. The question was there. hanging in the air between us. What now? He wanted to be near us. I could see it. He wanted to be near Sophia, to be this baker, this good man. But I was terrified. "Matteo," I said, my hand stopping. "I see what you did at the press conference. You put chains on yourself. In public, for everyone to see." "I did," he said, his voice quiet. "I'm grateful, and I'm not scared of you anymore." His eyes met mine. "But," I said, and I had to take a breath to say it, "if you want to be here with me with my daughter, you can't just promise us safety." "I don't want to live under your protection." And he looked confused. "Elena, that's all I've been trying to do, to protect you." "I know." I put the rag down. "Don't you see I don't want to live under an umbrella? Even your umbrella. If you're the one who can't control the rain, the old way that was you making it rain on men like Bianchi. That was you being the storm." I stepped closer. "The new way, if you want this, it has to be you building a house. Something permanent. Something the rain can't get into, no matter who sends it. Not a truce, not a charter. A house." He didn't speak. I had asked him for the one thing he didn't know how to do. I had asked him to give up the storm. He looked down at his hands, the hands that had signed manifests and broken men. Then he nodded. Slowly. "A house," he repeated, as if learning a new word. "I understand." My old manager from the hotel called. I was standing in the church basement, which was now stacked with donated bags of flour and sugar, and I almost didn't answer. "Elena," she said, and her voice was thin, nervous. We, the hotel, would like to issue a formal apology for the misunderstanding with Mr. Harris and the other matter. The other matter. The video. The public shaming. We have terminated the other manager involved," she continued, rushing, "and we would be thrilled to offer you your full-time hours back, all your shifts, and a raise, a 10% raise, effective immediately." A year ago, I would have cried with gratitude. A 10% raise. I looked around the basement. I saw the schedule on the wall, the one I'd drawn up. "Thank you," I said, and my voice was steady. "But I can't. I can accept my last paycheck, but I won't be returning full-time." "Oh," she said, surprised. "I see. Is it not enough?" "It's not about the money," I said, realizing it was the first time in my life that had been true. "I'm working on something new. Here, in the neighborhood." I hung up. I was done cleaning up other people's messes. I was going to build something. We called it the birthday table. It wasn't a charity, it was a network. My speech at the press conference, it had touched a nerve, the one about a safe birthday. It turned out there were hundreds of kids in shelters, in transitional housing, who were invisible. Their birthdays passed by like any other day. So we started small. The community kitchen at the church was our base. We didn't promise huge, magical unicorn cakes. That wasn't the point. The point was to be seen. Every week, we'd find out which children had a birthday in one of the local shelters. We'd bake a small, simple cake. We'd write their name on it, correctly. We'd bring 3 balloons and a card, signed by your neighbors. We had no logo, no corporate sponsors, just volunteers. It was my real job now. I was good at it. I was good at organizing. I was good at logistics. I was good at finding the kids who were falling through the cracks, because I knew the cracks. One day, Miss Diaz called me. "Good news, Elena," she said. "Sophia has been granted a full scholarship to the Public Arts Academy program. It's a special grant from the city's Tomorrow's Artists Fund." My heart stopped. "A city fund? Is it his?" Miss Diaz laughed. "I checked 3 times. I know you. No, this one is completely independently audited. The donation was made by an anonymous source, but it's not Romano. It's clean. Elena, 100%, she earned it. When I told Sophia, she just sat quietly for a minute. Then she went and got her markers. She didn't draw the unicorn from the bakery. She drew a new one. It was a simple, strong outline of a horse's head with a small star for a horn. It was proud. "Mommy," she said, "this is for the birthday table. This is our logo." I took the drawing, my hands shaking. I taped it to the wall of the kitchen. She had taken the symbol of her shame and made it into a shield. building a house. That's what she'd asked for. Not protection, not money, a house. I sat in my office for 3 days. My old office. I looked at the maps on my wall, the shipping lanes, the territories, the dark spots where my father's power still lingered. This wasn't a house. This was a web. On the 4th day, I called my lawyers. And Tony, we're selling. I said. Tony looked at me like I was insane. Boss, we're selling what? All of it. The 20% stake in the Harbor Logistics Company. The shares in the Private Transport Guild. Anything that operates in the gray. Anything that can't survive a full public audit. Mateo, Tony said, and he used my first name, which he never did. That's our leverage. That's our income. That's the storm. Like she said, you give that up. We're just guys in suits. Exactly, I said. Sell it. And the money we're going to buy O'Rourke's old buildings. All of them. The ones the AG seized. We're becoming landlords. Tony was horrified. We're becoming a housing trust, I corrected him. We're going to create the city's largest stock of truly affordable housing. We're going to put new boilers in every building. We're going to hire local. We're going to build a house. Tony was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Okay, boss, a house. I get it. And Tony, I said, you're done. The night work, the shadows, it's over. He looked down. What about me? You're getting your full state-certified security license. You're going to run Patriot Community Security. All licensed, all registered with the NYPD. You're not going to watch neighborhoods. You're going to partner with them. You're going to be the man who fixes the lock, not the one who breaks it. A slow smile spread across his face. A look of relief. He had a family. He had a way out. Yes, boss, he said. I can do that. Our life, it went slow. Mateo and I, we didn't date. I don't even know what that would have looked like. Instead, on Saturdays, he would show up at the park. He wouldn't bring gifts. He wouldn't wear his expensive suits. He would just be there. He'd push Sophia on the swing. He'd ask her about her art. He didn't try to be her father. He was just Mateo. We took the cooking class together. At the community kitchen, we learned how to bake bread from his mother, Rosa. She taught a class every Thursday. She didn't try to push me and Mateo together. She just taught me how to knead the dough. You have strong hands, Elena, she said one day, her own hands covered in flour. Good, you need strong hands to build. I was seeing a therapist. Miss Diaz had given me the name, to talk about the panic, about the warehouse, about the fear of locks being broken. Mateo was seeing someone, too. He told me one afternoon at the park, we were watching Sophia on the monkey bars. He's a veteran, Mateo said, his eyes on her. The therapist, he works with men who have anger from their fathers. He's teaching me how to put the storm in a box. I didn't say anything. I just sat next to him on the bench. I realized this was what love looked like. Not the storms, not the grand gestures. It was two people, sitting on a bench, in the cold, admitting they were broken and agreeing to help each other find the pieces. It wasn't a flash flood. It was the slow, steady habit of showing up. We had to deal with the bakery, Dolce Vero. It was a tomb. The condemned sign was still there. Bianchi's family had abandoned it. I found Hebe, the apprentice who had dropped the tray of cupcakes. She was working at a diner, still terrified. Mr. Romano, she stammered when she saw me. I didn't mean to. You were brave. Hebe, I said. You saved that little girl. You saved me. She looked at me, confused. I'm giving you the bakery. I said, what? Well, not you. I'm turning it into a workers' cooperative. It belongs to the employees, and I want you to run it. But it's not just a bakery anymore. It's a training school for kids in the shelters, kids who need a trade. Me run it? You? I said, you know how to bake, and you know what it's like to be scared. You're perfect. She looked at the building. What about the sign? It's a bad memory. Dolce Vero, I read. Sweet and true. Leave it, I said. We'll leave the sign as a reminder of what happens when you're neither. My building, our building, was the first one they fixed. The new boiler was installed in a single day. The heat was strong, steady. The windows were replaced. The red paint was scrubbed from my door. The tenants, led by Mrs. Rodriguez, had voted we'd turn the empty, dark ground floor apartment into a new community kitchen, a small version of the one at the church. There was a ribbon cutting. Mrs. Rodriguez was the guest of honor. She was back. She was healthy. Her cough was gone. She held the big, red scissors. "This," she said, her voice full of emotion, "is for all of us. No one should be cold again." She cut the ribbon. I was standing in the back of the crowd. I saw him. Mateo. He was standing across the street, by himself. He wasn't coming over. He wasn't taking credit. He was just watching. He was letting us have our victory. I met his eyes, and I smiled. A real smile. I was warm. I was safe. I was home. He nodded. A small, private acknowledgement. The house was being built. The air in the courtyard was warm. That was the first thing I noticed. It was a soft, humid warmth, the kind that finally breaks the back of a New York winter. We had strung up yellow cafe lights, the old-fashioned kind, zigzagging from my apartment window to Mrs. Rodriguez's. They cast a gentle, golden glow, pushing back the blue shadows of the Bronx dusk. This was Sophia's party. Her real 9th birthday. It wasn't a party of excess. There were no rented ponies. There was no unicorn masterpiece. Hebe, who now ran the renamed Vero Cooperative Bakery, had baked the cake herself. It was a simple 2-layer chocolate cake with white frosting. On top, in neat, careful blue script, it said, "Happy Birthday. Sophia," my daughter's name, spelled right. She was running around, her laughter sharp and clear, playing tag with 8 or 9 other children. They were the children from the shelters, the first cohort of the birthday table. They didn't know they were a program. They just knew they were at a party. Mrs. Rodriguez and some of the other tenants were sitting in lawn chairs, holding paper plates. Tony DeLuca now, Mr. DeLuca, head of Patriot Community Security, was manning the grill, looking awkward but happy in a civilian polo shirt, handing out hot dogs. "Okay, mija, time for cake," I called out. The kids swarmed the table. Sophia stood in front of her cake, her eyes huge. I watched her look at her name. I watched her touch the blue frosting of the S. She looked up at me, her smile so bright it hurt. "It's my name. Mommy, it's your name," I said, my throat thick. Before we cut it, one of the shelter workers tapped my arm. "Say something, Elena. You're the one who built this." I looked at the faces watching me. Parents, neighbors, kids. I wasn't a speaker, I was a maid. But I thought about that day in the bakery, the sharp-eyed girl in the pink apron, the feeling of my wallet, empty, the $28 that had felt like a canyon I couldn't cross. I thought of the choice. "Thank you all for coming," I started, my voice shaky. "I just wanted this for her, for all of them." I looked at Sophia, who was beaming. "This past winter," I said, and the words came out clear. "I learned that things are very hard for a lot of people, but I just want to say one thing, a thing I believe now." I looked at all the parents. "No one," I said, "should ever have to cancel a cake to choose medicine." A murmur of amen and yes went through the crowd. It wasn't a slogan. It was their life. It was our truth. "So this," I said, gesturing to the small cake, "this isn't just sugar. This is respect. This is saying, we see you. Your birthday matters." I nodded. "Okay, let's sing." The chorus of voices that rose up was loud and out of tune, and it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Later, the families were leaving. The volunteers were packing up. Sophia was in her room, finally, asleep, clutching a small box of new crayons. I was in the courtyard, just breathing. "Elena." Mateo was standing by the gate. He hadn't come to the party. He'd respected the boundary. He knew it was my victory, not his. "You're a good speaker," he said. "I'm not," I said, smiling. "But I meant it. I know." He walked over. He looked nervous. His hands were in his pockets. This was the man who had faced down Franco Bianchi, and he was fidgeting. "I have something for you," he said. "It's not what you think." He pulled a small box from his pocket. It was velvet, but it was old, worn. It wasn't a ring box. It was too long. My heart was beating. What now? I told you I was building a house, he said, his voice low. It's slow. It's hard. I'm not good at it yet. I'm used to breaking things, not building them. You're learning, I whispered. I am. He opened the box. I looked inside. There was no diamond, no jewel. There was just a single, simple white candle, the kind you buy at a bodega for 5 cents. It was old, the wax yellowed, the wick unburnt. I looked at him, confused. It's the one my mother couldn't buy. He said, Well, not the one. I went back to that bodega a long time ago. The man was still there. I bought his whole stock. I kept this one, to remember. He looked at the candle, then at me. I can't promise you forever, Elena. I don't know what that is. I can't give you a ring that I bought with a clean conscience. Not yet. He took a shaky breath. But I'm learning to wait. I'm learning how to be the man who deserves to stand in the light with you. This is a promise, not of a castle, just a promise of a candle, that I will always make sure our children have a candle. My eyes filled with tears. A ring would have been a chain. It would have been a purchase. A candle was a promise. It was warmth. It was presence. I didn't say anything. I just stepped forward into his space. I put my arms around his neck and I held on. He wrapped his arms around my waist, his grip crushing, as if he was afraid I was a ghost. He buried his face in my hair. We just stood there, under the yellow lights, in the courtyard he had helped build. We didn't promise forever. We just promised now. I was in my new office. It was smaller than my old one, cleaner. The ledgers were all digital and all of them were legal. The news was on the small TV in the corner. And in local good news, the anchor was saying, the grassroots program, The Birthday Table, started by Bronx mother Elena Ruiz, is celebrating its 6-month anniversary. They showed footage of our little kitchen. They showed Sophia's logo, the strong unicorn. Since its inception, the anchor continued, the program, which is entirely community-funded, has seen the rate of shelter birthdays celebrated with a cake increase by 300% in its target boroughs. The camera cut to a reporter, talking to Elena at a park. Miss Ruiz, the reporter said, it's an incredible success. But rumors persist that you have a single, wealthy benefactor, someone from Little Italy. Can you confirm who is funding this? I watched Elena on the screen. She didn't blink. She didn't look at me. She couldn't see me. But she knew. We have no single benefactor, Elena said, her voice clear and strong. We are funded by the community. The anchor smiled. The community! That's wonderful. I leaned back in my chair. She had done it. She had protected me. She had protected the work. She didn't credit me. She had made it ours. The segment ended. And in our follow-up story, Franco Bianchi was formally indicted today on a slate of charges, including racketeering, money laundering, and reckless endangerment, tied to the Dolce Vero expired milk scandal. His remaining family members, who have disavowed his tactics, have restructured their businesses to comply with all state and federal laws. It was done. Not with a bang, with a gavel. The war was over. The house was standing. The next Thursday, I was at the bakery, the Vero Cooperative. Hebe was running it, and she was a natural. She was sharp, and she was kind. My mother, Rosa, was there. She was holding her free class for parents. The room was full. Parents from the shelters, parents from my building. She was teaching them how to make a simple, one-bowl pound cake. How to make something beautiful from just flour, sugar, and eggs. You don't need a machine, my mother was saying, her hands working the dough. You just need your hands. You just need the warmth from your own hands. At the end of the class, after the cakes were cooling, she brought out a box. It wasn't a box of souvenir candles. It was just a regular supermarket box of birthday candles. She walked to every parent one by one and handed them a handful. From my family, she said to each of them. So you are never without. The symbol was complete. It wasn't my burden anymore. It was our gift. That night, we had a quiet celebration. Just me, Mateo, and Sophia. We had one of the pound cakes from my mother's class. We put one candle in it, just one. Okay, mija, I said, make a wish. Sophia closed her eyes so tight her nose wrinkled. She took a huge breath. I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at Mateo. He was sitting across from me, and he wasn't looking at Sophia either. He was looking at me. Sophia blew. The flame wavered, and in that 1 second before it went out, I saw the tiny bright orange light reflected in his eyes, and I knew he could see it reflected in mine. The flame disappeared, leaving a curl of smoke. It was gone, but we both knew, in the dark, that we had seen it. It was just enough light, just enough for the long road ahead. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. I'd love to connect with all of you. So please, comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I can't wait to read your thoughts on the story. If you want to hear more, please subscribe to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and hit that like button. And if you really want to help this story get heard by more people, please consider giving it an extra boost by hitting the hype button. Thanks again for all your support.